Hello once again, and welcome to Mid-Missouri Art News, sponsored by the Jefferson City Art Club here in our capital city of Missouri. I want to wish everyone, first of all, our first show here in the new year, Happy New Year. I hope your blessings come upon you, and at the same time, if you're going through a tough time in life, keep faith in yourself and your higher being, what have you. I would like to advise you that we've got two special guests today. First of all will be artist Shari Bullard from Jefferson City, Missouri. She's the board member and second vice president of the Jefferson City Art Club and spokesperson today for the Art Club. 114 years now for the Jefferson City Art Club. And in our second segment will be John Sortino. He's a sculptor from the west side of the Lake of the Ozarks area, transplant from an easterly city, Trenton, New Jersey, and has roots here in Missouri before that. John will share all his great subject matter. They both have a lot of merit in the art world. So welcome, stay with us. I'd like to now welcome Miss Shari Bullard here from Jefferson City. Welcome, Shari.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, naturally. If you could, tell us a little bit, some of the highlights of your life that make up Shari Bullard.
Well, my husband and I have been married for 52 years. We moved from Illinois in 1978 down to Missouri. And at present time, we have 4 adult children, 11 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. So that kind of keeps us busy, along with other
Well, that sounds
things.
rewarding. I can tell that you're special grandparents and parents also. That's exciting that you could share that with us here in the art world. Well, can you share with us then how you were first inspired, should we say, to become an artist? What brought all that about?
Well, it's more, I guess, an internal part of me, because my mother always told me I started doodling when I was about 6. And she always said that my artistic talents came from my French grandmother, whose name was Caroline Lamar. Well, it was only after I started investigating our ancestry that I found out actually my grandmother, Lamar, that was her 3rd marriage, and she really wasn't French, but she was Portuguese. Okay, so that was kind of an interesting twist of things. My next experience, of course, then my mom always kept me busy with supplies, and my first projects were, of course, like a lot of artists that were not exposed to art in the schools, because schools were so small where I was at, was paint by numbers. And so I did a number of those. After I started getting older and doing my own work, though, I started getting these how-to books from Walter Foster, which were really good as far as a self-taught artist goes. In 4th grade, my first project was, we had a little school paper for 4th grade, and one of my projects was to copy cartoons from magazines onto, do you remember the mimeograph? We used to do the mimeograph, and they were so messy. I remember the inks on my hands. And that was my first project, was doing some of the cartoons for our little school paper. My next endeavor was when we moved to a more rural area. In 8th grade, my mother ran across this newspaper article about an art competition for the Department of Agriculture in Illinois. And she says, you need to do something. You needed to do a poster. And so we submitted a poster. I did a poster, and I took first place in a state. And they gave us a dinner and gave me a little plaque that was on leather, from cowhide, because it was Department of Agriculture. All right, that was the first one. Then after I got into high school, again, our high school was so small that we didn't have actual art classes, so I had to learn whatever I could on my own. And I was the art director of our paper, and everything had to be done by hand. We didn't have a computer, so everything had to be done by hand, and then sent to the printer, which we did. My other, of course, I have other, besides the art end of it, I was an editor for our school paper in the high school, all 4 years.
Interesting.
I actually was a reporter first, the first 3 years for like FFA, which is the Future Farmers of America, the GAA, which is Girls Athletic Association, different associations I would report on, okay? The final year, my senior year, I was editor. Well, all the years that I was on the school paper, was never satisfied with the format of it. So when I got to be editor, I rearranged everything. Well, unbeknownst to me, our business teacher sent off a copy of our new newsletter to an association, a state association for schools our size. It was the first time in the history of our school to ever take an award for our news reporting. Nice. So that was my second great endeavor. Well, then I met and married my husband, moved to a bigger city, took some formal classes at the junior college there in Joliet, Illinois. Again, unbeknownst to me, one of our family members submitted some of my artwork to a county fair in southern Illinois. Again, placed with blue ribbons. So I was on the road I had placed with blue ribbons in grade school, high school, college, and adult exhibitions. So that's
what an incentive, all those awards. Plus, it's nice to be awarded when you have done something you have put your heart into. So that is really interesting. You've got a very good basis of merit, as I spoke earlier in my introduction. Well, now I understand you also have a fairly large, extensive interest in different mediums. Now, from an artist standpoint, tell us what your favorite mediums and subject matter might be in categories of at least 5 that I can probably name.
My problem is I'm kind of, I started with oils, and I worked with them for quite a while, but because of small children, we had an incident where one of my family members, my sister-in-law's son, drank a jar of turpentine thinking it was water, and he almost died from it.
I see.
So after that, I changed my media to acrylic, which has always been a favorite of mine. I also do a lot of pencil work too, but unfortunately, I have one of these minds where once I have done a certain media for a while, I usually do series of art. I move on to something else because I also have a background in sewing. So I've done some quilting, I've done some doll making. So it just depends on the period of where I'm at as to what's my favorite. If I'm doing dolls are my favorite for a while. If I'm doing quilting, quilts are my favorite for a while.
I see.
So it just depends on where I'm at and what I'm doing at the time, whether or not that's my favorite before I move on to the next favorite.
Well, now you forgot. I noticed visiting with you for lunch the other day, going over the program, you had a gentleman on your front porch. It looked more like a doll in a sense. So you must have an interest in making dolls, because getting the tour of the home and your art studio, I saw a few dolls also. So I have to commend you on that artistic effort also.
Well, those have ranged from cloth, which I initially started with. As a girl, I was never interested in dolls. I never got into dolls. But eventually, as our 2 girls came along, I got into soft doll making and fashion design. I like making the clothes for the dolls. And so I've done paper mache, mixed media, porcelain, a number of 3-dimensional plastic type dolls that I've done. So yes, those have been some of my favorites too, and they have placed in several competitions too.
Oh my, that's a very interesting background. Well, do you have any projects in? Well, I'm sure you got projects in the works right now, but those projects, what are you up to at this time? And do you have any venues currently that you might our viewers might be able to visit and see your work firsthand?
Well, presently I'm exhibiting over at the Missouri, the Capitol Arts Gallery on Missouri Boulevard, and they have presently showing artworks by women. It's art by women, and I have three pieces over there. One is an acrylic of some cardinals in winter, and then the other two pieces are three-dimensional mixed medias that I have done. And then I'm also presently transferring, because I also take photographs. I'm also an amateur photographer, transposing a lot of my, not a lot, but a number of my pictures, wildlife pictures, to paintings, acrylic painting. So that's what I'm presently working on.
Yes. Now those paintings and some of those works will be aired along with the program here as we're speaking. So we invite everyone to take a special look and then get on over to Capitol Arts Gallery on Missouri Boulevard to see firsthand what not only Shari's work, but also a lot of other interesting subject matter. Well, Shari, you're a renewed member of the Jefferson City Art Club since 2011 and do currently serve as second vice president. I understand that you're active on the Publicity Promotions Committee, and basically keeps everyone up to date on the happenings of the club through local newspaper, magazine, print, and also active with the radio TV crew appearing on the Paul Pepper and Friends show, plus now here with us today, and we're so happy to have you on JCTV Missouri Art News. May I ask you how the Jefferson City Club may have introduced you to other artists and the mediums they might currently be interested in and happy over?
Yeah, I was out of it for a while because of work commitments and family, obligations and everything.
Sure.
And then I went back because I wanted to see what was going on in the art community. So I rejoined in 11. I haven't been as active as much as I could have been as far as positions, but I have enjoyed seeing what other artists are doing and participating in the different exhibits that they offer over there, especially since we exhibit over there at the Capitol Arts Gallery on Missouri Boulevard.
Well, you are the featured artist on the website at this time, the Jefferson City Art Club. Those interested in learning more firsthand, can you tell our viewers where and when the club meets, and also maybe the website, a telephone number that people could reach and get more information?
Okay, right now I'll be showing at the DMV for between January the 16th and February the 26th, and that will also, my works will also be shown on our website, which, let me see here real quick, you can go to www.jeffersoncityartclub-missouri.com. The phone number to call for more information would be 573-645-4507. Now our next meeting, we generally meet the third Monday of each month, September through May. And this next coming Monday, January the 16th, is our next meeting after the holidays. We meet at the Community Christian Church at 409 Ellis Boulevard at 5:30. We usually have a presenter. We first have a meet and greet at 5:30. We have an artist come in and present what they are presently doing, and give us information of what's going on with them in their art careers. And we invite anyone who is interested. You don't have to be an artist, a patron, whatever category that you're in. We encourage you to come and join us and meet some of your local artists. Meet some of the people who are out there creating some of the art that you see in different places out there.
Well, Shari, on behalf of the Jefferson City Art Club, I want to thank you for sharing so much with us here on Mid-Missouri Art News, JCTV. And we asked people to go to the website and check on the special events that's coming on in the future in these next few months. I thank you once again for being a guest.
Thank you.
And right after the break, we'll be turning to John Sortino, who is a well-known sculptor in our area. See you after the break. Hello once again, and welcome to the second half of our Mid-Missouri Art News here on JCTV, sponsored by the Jefferson City Art Club. And as I promised, I will now turn to John Sortino, a sculptor from the west side of the Lake of the Ozarks area. John, welcome. It's great to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. Well, let's just start things off. Can you tell us a little bit about the highlights of your life that make it interesting or dull or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Well,
I know you've got an extensive background.
Well, I'm originally from Kansas City on the Jackson County side, and my father was skilled labor at a steel mill there, and my mother, she had the culture of the family. I'm the youngest of four. And presently, I've got my studio at the west side of the lake, and been there 25 years this year. Actually, 25 years. I
see. Wow, that's an extended stay in Missouri. I guess you evidently like the weather.
Yeah, it's going to change.
It's going to
real
change.
quick.
Yes, we got a big snowstorm coming. A few folks can identify as that about this time of the year.
I like the seasons. There's no doubt the seasons are great.
I see. That's a big difference from New Jersey and from your experiences there, which you'll share a little bit with us about that here in a moment. Well, tell us a little bit about what first inspired you, let's say, to become an artist, a sculptor.
Well, you know, we come from, working back family, and, art didn't really come into the picture, Yeah, we did stuff at school, won ribbons there, done 4-H, in high school and all that, but it didn't cross my mind. I just knew that, learning from my dad, definitely, you get exposed to tools, number one. You got to have tools and materials. And, he always had the tools and materials. He buy home metals, and, he let me use them. And so I knew I wanted that. One time he was a machinist, and I wanted to follow. So I went to school up in St. Paul, Minneapolis area, to a trade school, and I call them technicals. And that's where, I wanted to manufacture something in life, because I wanted to be around tools and material, no matter if it was woods, metals. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I wanted to manufacture something. So I came back home from school, and then I worked at a shop, and then at that point I said, man, I've got to have my own studio. And my grandparents had a vacation home at the lake since 1956, and my dad had a second-tier lot back there, and at that time I said, Dad, can I build a studio back there?
Awesome.
Shop, whatever you want, atelier. That's French for a studio.
I see.
And he said, oh yeah, and he didn't believe me, and I did it, and I still work there now, and it's always been a joy, and I've been different places in the 25 years.
Well, you're right out there with nature. I understand that you really believe that nature has a big part in a lot of decision making for a lot of artists as far as subject matter that you choose. So give us your scoop on nature and how it affects you in your
I
work.
think all artists, take from nature. There's no doubt about it. That's the greatest artist who is nature itself. We can only maybe interpret it, but we never can be, exact or even come close to being that good. But I think as the American landscape, that nature has always been inspirational in American art movement. It's just, it's a great country.
That's an
and it's a
excellent
beautiful
point,
country.
and I'm glad you brought that up because that really is what inspires, in some manner or some way, that I think it inspires somehow every artist. Now, I'd like to ask you your favorite subject matter and the medium, which talk about nature. But now we've got some pieces that'll be, as we visit, that'll be running through. So you have 8 pieces, I understand, that you'd like to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, these pieces haven't been shown. They're fairly recent, in the last couple of years. I still produce. I tried to. When I first started off, I wanted to make, you got to find out what you want to do. You try everything and say, no, I don't want to do this, I want to do that, And at first you think you need all these tools and everything like this, and you need this tool and that tool, and you come to find out, man, there's only a few tools you need to make anything. And I understand artists, at least a sculptor, needs to have a studio to work in.
Now, out of these 8 pieces that we're viewing as we talk, which ones would you like to really highlight? Tell us a little story about one of them or 2 of them.
Well, the last, let's see, I started with let's start with the sailboat. Do I have that one? The sailboat is,
yes,
I was looking at I was in a boat boneyard. I don't know, I was on, I go on different tangents, I'm different things. And so I was in this old boneyard looking for different stuff, maybe some mahogany or this or that, whatever. And then I'm about through, and it was a big place. And I seen this boat deal, and it was a boat dealer sign. It said Newman, Miami, Oklahoma. Miami. I said, And it took me when I came home, it didn't take very long. I had a piece of mahogany, and I had an old Taylor. Taylor's a very famous boat flag maker in New York. Had one of those, and it took me, a little more than a half hour to put it together. It's
very interesting.
It's a wall piece. It's a wall hanging. And then my wooden sculptures. I started doing wood because, I still do metal, but it's getting a little more costly. Metal's gone up, and
I see.
I've kind of gotten away, and I said, well, I do make furniture, and I've done original design furniture for 20 years, and I still like making even arts and crafts, shaker stuff. It's challenging. It's discipline. And so I started to use the wood into making sculptures, which is not as lasting as metal or stone, but you still can get your design across. One thing, when you make a maquette, which is a small sculpture, which can be, you know, blown up to 20 feet, you know, so you're always working, you know, or you can turn it into bronze if you want to. Now, that's where I went out to school to Trenton, New Jersey. And Trenton was where the full-service art foundry that I worked at is Johnson Atelier. Well, actually, it was a school. I just happened to come across it, and just, you know, things that you do in your everyday life, you know, boom. You know, it's just like coming across a piece of art, you know, or an idea that you've got, and it just comes to you, just like that boat, for example. So, you know, I went out there because I've learned fabricating, I've learned machining, about metals, forging. So casting was really the only thing I hadn't done, and it was great because it was an art foundry.
Yes, and what an opportunity to step in and understand you could actually, after you put in a day's work, that the building, the forge or whatever was available to you to use
Mr. Johnson
as an artist.
Was Mr. Johnson is a famous artist himself, Stuart Johnson.
Johnson, correct?
Yeah, he's one of the heirs to the Johnson & Johnson fame. And you might have seen some of his work out there. It's all over the country and all over the world. But we did his work and other famous New York artists. And after work, he gave us the studios. He gave us all the stuff we need to make our own art. And sometimes if you were modeling or doing something in the foundry, he'd see it. He would give you a commission. No, I didn't get a commission from him. He'd give you a modeling commission because he had a 20-acre park out there. Beautiful.
Well, that was a great opportunity.
I was there for 5 years, and really, it was a figurative foundry in which I did study the figure for, you know, the whole time I was there, because it's very difficult and the most challenging. And a lot of my work comes from, you know, figure.
Well, you've been an inspiration to me just listening and talking with you on different occasions. I'd like to say on behalf of the Jefferson City Art Club, which hopes to bring together all art lovers and enthusiasts in mid-Missouri through this program. I want to thank you so much for contributing to Mid-Missouri Art News, JCTV, and making it a learning and informational experience for all. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Our next featured artist here on Mid-Missouri Art News is Faye Zumwalt of the Jefferson City Art Club, and Amanda Allen. She's the director, the new director of the Jefferson City Symphonic Band. That's the Jefferson City Community Symphonic Band. That'll be March 8th that we'll be talking to Faye and Amanda. I want to thank our JCTV producer, Gloria Enlow, and thank you for watching JCTV, Mid-Missouri Art News. Your host, Rick J. Look for more Mid-Missouri Art News right here on JCTV and on YouTube. Don't forget to like us on YouTube. Rick J saying, see you next time.